couples will often reminisce and recount when they first met, when they first set eyes on one another. During the middle of the 20th century, it was estimated that 70% of couples met at dance halls. Sometimes journeys away from home occasionally offered romantic possibilities. There was a famous British film in the 1940s entitled Brief Encounter. It tells of a romance that begins with the meeting at a railroad station. According to technology company Reporter Linker, it surveyed 550 people from ages 18 to 64. This study was done in 2018. What attracts people to one another? How do we find chemistry to be physically present to one another, to a significant other, to make a permanent life decision, to make a commitment to one another? According to Reporter Linker, 39% of people find their significant other through friends. In a society that's tethered to iPhones and social media and Facebook and Instagram, 39% of people find their significant other through friends. 15% of people find their significant other at work, where we spend a large portion of our time. 12% of people find their partner at bars or other public areas, such as beaches, lakes, parks, mountains. 9% of people find their partner at sports, religion, or hobby events, like fitness clubs, mass, Bible studies, Steeler games, Pirate games, Penguin games, some sporting event. 8% find their partner on internet dating or dating apps like Bumble or Meet Me or eHarmony. 7% of people find through family. It used to be prearranged by families in other countries that you would pick your daughter who you would marry. And 1% of couples met each other on speed dating. Why do I tell you all that? Because in the biblical times, the most romantic place to meet somebody was at a well. At a well, imagine. The farmers would water their animals and hope to catch a glimpse of a local woman's eye. Rebekah's married Isaac. Moses' wife was Zipporah. They first encountered their husbands at a well. Jacob met his wife-to-be at a well. He was tired and he was weary from a journey. He rested in the midday heat. He found this beautiful shepherdess. In Genesis chapter 29, Jacob met Rachel. He kissed her and soon asked her father if he could have her hand in marriage. Jacob even offered to work for 7 years for her dad. Well, her dad tried to trick Jacob in marrying one of his other daughters. Jacob will hear now. He had to work an extra 7 years. Can you imagine that to get Rachel? He never gave up his hope on marrying her. Can you imagine 14 years of this? Today everything's instantaneous. I want it now. I want it immediately. St. Paul reminds us love's patient. God is patient. God's not interested in some fleeting flirtation with us. He wants a covenant with us. Hosea, in marrying Gomer, says, with cords of love, we are called back to God's heart. God has an unconditional love for us, unrelenting love for us, even at times when our love is not so faithful. Well, centuries later, Jesus meets a woman at a well. She's a Samaritan. She's a foreigner. It's a well built by Jacob. This scene is rivaled with great symbolism. At Jacob's well, at the highest, hottest time of the Palestinian sun, Jesus, the sinless one, meets a sinful woman. Notice it doesn't give us her name. She's a female, she's a foreigner, she's fallen, she's a Samaritan, and she went to do her daily chore to get water for her house. She was all alone at Jacob's well, and just as Jacob had an unquenchable love for Rachel, it was the perfect setting for Jesus and this Samaritan sinful woman to encounter each other. At first, she was very hesitant and reluctant to talk with this stranger, Jesus. He didn't want everyday chatter, talk about sports or the weather or the coronavirus. He didn't want that small stuff. He wanted to talk about larger stuff. Jesus was weary, he was well-traveled, and he asked for something that she was capable of giving him, a cold cup of water, a gesture of hospitality. Jesus dug a well within her heart to give her life-saving water, salvation. She had 5 husbands, didn't she? They represent the errant paths that all of us can take. We can look to wealth or pleasure or honors or powers or material things or to people and still languish and feel empty. Jesus gave her time and tenderness. Jesus trusted in her. He offered the gift of his presence and his love to her. And she repented of her ways. She heard the message deeply. This woman of suspicion became a great evangelist, didn't she? At first, she called Jesus Jew. Then she called him Sir. Then she called him Prophet. Then she called him Messiah. Then she called him the Savior of the world. She wanted to tell everybody what he did for her, he'll do for you. It's a refreshing story on our 3rd Sunday of Lent, isn't it? The story of the woman at the well. Why? Because Lent is a time of grace and repentance and conversion and new beginnings for each and every one of us. We can be very overwhelmed and anxious, fearful, and worried about this pandemic spreading of the coronavirus throughout the world, globally and nationally, locally, and even in our own hometown, Allegheny County. Yes, we've had to change our schedules, haven't we? Work and school, hospital visitations, business and travel, entertainment and recreation, sports and shopping, and even coming to Mass on Sunday has changed. That's why this enemy is a great, formidable foe, the coronavirus. Oh, we may not be infected by it, but we are all affected by it, aren't we? We need to be emotionally united and together, lest we run the risk of allowing fear to destroy us and to divide us from one another. Maybe during this Lenten journey, the coronavirus can bring us closer to the crucified one, where we forgo certain joys that we're used to having, things that we're normally used to doing, to break us from that chain of our common routine to a greater, higher good. Maybe it can be a grace moment to unite ourselves more deeply to humanity, to the common good, to our faith with one another, and our trust that we are here to journey together. Do you know that there was a saint in the early centuries? Her name was Saint Corona. She was from Italy. She's the patroness of epidemics. Maybe we need to turn to her today, Saint Corona, and ask for her grace of her intercession to refresh us at this well as we've come. As few as we are, as small as we are, God wants to win each one of us back completely and entirely. He's waiting at the well for each of us today. Why? Because only Jesus can slake the deepest thirst that we have. And that thirst is for Jesus. And that gift is salvation. Jesus is love. is everlasting.